Hello there YouTube, Devin here again, and today I have a video for you on British, Canadian, Commonwealth canteens and mess kits. Now this is a kind of early setup, and this was by far the most common setup among all the Commonwealth countries. Not all this stuff is the same era. This is a 51 pattern pouch, but it's not that much different than the pattern 37 era stuff. But we're going to get into the two main staples of the British soldier as far as being able to, eat and drink on the battlefield. So we'll start here with the canteen. Now this has the what a lot of people know as the basket or wraparound canvas cover for the pattern 37. And they call it that because it obviously wraps around. And there was two main styles of canteen carrier. As you can see here, we have one that is skeletonized, which is just as good essentially as this one, but I like these ones better. They protect the canteen a little bit more, especially with this wool felt covering. But we'll get into that later. The canteen itself is flask shaped. It's kind of kidney shaped. It holds a good amount of water. As far as World War II goes, the British and Commonwealth troops went in carrying the most water per single container. Now, a lot of armies would issue just multiple canteens, but per single canteen, the Commonwealth forces entered World War II with the most water. And World War I, they had this canteen in World War I as well, and they're made the same way. There, I believe, was 7 or 8 different variations of this canteen. They're all basically the same, though, with some minor little creature comforts and stuff added. But you can find them made out of aluminum. The vast majority of them are made out of tin. You can find them made out of steel. And they're all enameled inside and out. And the enamel changes in colors. Most of the World War I ones you find tend to be blue. A lot of the later ones tend to be kind of brown or greenish brown or kind of olive colored. This one, as you can see, is brown. It's a very, very good canteen. You find most of them felt wrapped later on like this, wool or felt wrapped. Early ones would just be bare. A lot of the earlier ones would also have leather carriers rather than these canvas webbing ones. But it's a good canteen. Earlier ones too would not have had the retention loop right here on the canteen, that little kind of metal loop. Was not early part of the canteen. That was only like Mark 6 and after that version of the canteen, which most of the World War II ones are like this. So a lot of the World War I ones or interwar ones won't have that. They would have the lanyard or stitched into the cover or attached to the carrier rather than attached to the canteen itself. This is often referred to in most Commonwealth countries as a water bottle, not as a canteen, by the way, but I'm just calling it a canteen because that's what most people know of it nowadays after the fact. But in most British manuals of the time, it's called a water bottle, pattern 37 water bottle, whatever you want to call it. It had various names, and it spanned a very, very wide lifespan. This canteen type was used basically unchanged by some countries in one form or another from about the Boer Wars to just after the Boer Wars, until about the 1980s, which is kind of awesome because I actually really like these, and they are basically giant flasks. Now, most of them you find will have wool covers. You can find a lot of these unissued. They're cheap. They're readily available. Some of the early ones you have to watch out for with the enameling, because some of the enameling on them has lead in it. So you can, if you drink out of them enough, get lead poisoning. Most of the later ones that you see, the brown ones and stuff, are clean enamel and they will not have lead in them, so you don't have to worry about that. But for the most part, most people drank out of these just fine and never had any problems. I've never really heard of any problems with them, even some of the earlier ones that do have leaded enamel. Without that big an issue. As you can see, this one was blancoed at some point. It would have been originally tan, and somebody blancoed it in this kind of pea green color. The second version of the carrier, they were not issued in any specific way, but this was kind of because of a shortage. of canvas and stuff at the time, with some manufacturers in some different countries and stuff like that chose one design over the other and yada yada. But they're you can see them both in service with pretty much every country. And this is the Skeletonized Carrier, and it's just 20 millimeter webbing for the most part. Brass hardware. All of the pattern 37 stuff has brass hardware. Some of it shiny, some of it blackened. And same principle basically. It's just a wool cover, giant kidney-shaped canteen that would be held in place. And how you would attach these is these little straps. You could put a shoulder strap on it of various kinds and shapes. A lot of them you'll see will have their own individual shoulder straps like this. That would be like after World War II and stuff like that, or a thin shoulder strap like this. But for the most part, your web gear would be considered of a belt, and it would have a set of braces on it, or in American it would be called suspenders. And you would have a little tail part of the suspenders that would hang out past the belt. And in the front you would have a little tail of the suspenders that would hang down past the belt. And you would kind of bring those around the side of your waist, and you would run those tails through these buckles here, and it would kind of bounce along the side of your thigh or your hip, your canteen would. And your mess kit would be on the other side. Now this is what one of those canteens looks like, one of those flasks without its wool cover on it. This one was made in 1952. As you can see, there still has the manufacturer's stamp on it. So as you can see, it's the enameled kind of tin. Really, really good canteen. All three of them that I have are tin. Unfortunately, I haven't found one of the other ones. This one, though, is enameled a different color on the inside as it is on the outside. It's this kind of forest green on the inside, and this kind of olive green on the outside. And you can see that one there has a different nut on it than the square one that the other one had. So, and now we'll get into the mess kit. Now, the mess kits have remained unchanged for a very, very long time, too. As you can hear, this one is kind of loud. They probably wouldn't have been carried like this all the time, because they did tend to rattle and make a lot of noise. So you would often wrap one of the smaller version of this, the smaller part of this, sorry, in a cloth, and it would keep it pretty quiet and stuff like that. Once again, this is not a pattern 37 canteen, sorry, not canteen, a pattern 37 pouch. This is a pattern, Canadian pattern 51 pouch, which just has slightly different attachment methods and slightly, it's a slightly different color, basically. So an actual like Commonwealth one or British one wouldn't have this hook on the back. It would have loops to run through your belt. And but in 1951, the Canadians went away from the pattern 37 and into the pattern 51, which is like a mashup between the American web gear of the 40s and the British web gear of the 40s, so that they were using already of the 37 pattern. So now this is the British Commonwealth style of mess kit. This is a kind of rarer one, because this one is a tin one, but it's made in the style of the steel ones. As you can see here, it consists of one big rectangular pan and one small rectangular pan. These ones are used. I got them used, but I eat out of these, and they're not bad. It's a little bit heavy, has a rolled edge on it. That's what appealed me to this, was the fact that it has a rolled edge on it, which is just going to keep my pouch in nicer condition. Has a steel handle, but the mess kit itself is made out of tin. Now, a lot of these you'll find made out of aluminum. Like I said, you can find them made out of steel. You can find them made out of tin. The vast majority of them are going to be made out of tin or aluminum. The steel ones were kind of rarer. They weren't made super long. But this is a tin one, but it's made in the style of the steel ones. It has these reinforcement ribs along the side. It has the rolled edge and everything like that. The manufacturer's mark on this one is kind of worn off, but it has MB2-41 for it was made in 1941, and this one has the same marking, MB2-41. It is a riveted model. You can find welded models where this plate, the handle retention plate, will be welded. You can find them in all different styles. It varied from manufacturer to manufacturer. There you can see the MB41 kind of real fade right there on the side of the mess kit. This one has a 2. It's a little bit easier to see on this one, MB-2-41. But it was basically, they would nest together really well. As you can see, you would put these together. You would wrap the small one usually in the cloth or a handkerchief or a napkin or something. You could store food in here in between these as well. There's a lot of space between here. And then it would be quiet because the cloth would keep it from banging metal on metal contact. Because while these are a kind of a tight fit, they don't fit perfect, obviously, because they didn't have that high of a tolerance. And to account for the expanding and contracting of the metal and stuff like that in different temperatures and environments, you almost have to have that. So now this pouch itself is green canvas, obviously. This one too, you could also attach it via its own shoulder strap. It has black and brass buckles on either side, or like I said, just like with the Canteen, on those little tails from the braces that were attached to your belt. You could also attach this via the M1910 hook on the back. This will work with American gear. These Canadian 1951 pouches will work with the American gear. It will work with the Canadian 1951 gears too. And because of all these strap attachments, it will work with the British pattern 37 gear as well, which I find very cool because it's a very versatile type of thing, the Canadian 1951 gear and stuff like that. Now, this wasn't exactly how it would have been for forever. You would see the Canadians kind of transition more to American stuff each time they would update their gear. This was the 1951 pattern was actually the last time that you could find a lot of this kind of British influence. Now, the Canadians basically only carried the Musket over, this Musket over, rather than changing to American style Musket, which is that ovular thing that has little dividers in it. Until the 1980s, pretty much everything else, though, went over. Their Canteen went over to the American M1910 style. Their webbing went to more of an American style in the 50s. Even their helmet went from the British turtle helmet to the M1 helmet eventually here, which is just why I love Canada. It's a mashup between Britain and America. And I just like how the 51 gear can work with just about anything. It can work with the 37 pattern, it can work with the 51 pattern, obviously like it was designed to, and it can work with the American stuff as well. So hopefully you guys like this video. You subscribe if you like this sort of thing. These things lasted forever. You can find them for relatively cheap. They work quite well. They're going to last you a very, very long time. They're cool pieces of history. You can find them in tons of different variations, made by a ton of different countries. Because at one point, during Queen Victoria's rule, the sun never set on the British Empire, and they all basically standardized in one form or another on this gear at some point. So you can find stuff all over made by almost every country that was a former Commonwealth country or current Commonwealth country when it was made, in different types of metals and paint schemes and everything. There's something to fit everyone out of this if you're one of those OCD people. And I really hope you guys enjoy this sort of thing. I'm going to be coming out with the full set of the webbing here soon once I finish getting all the pouches. I'm just waiting on a haversack to show up. Well, I have a pattern 51 haversack, but it's so beat up. So, but a lot of times you can see Canadians using British stuff too, and American stuff during that time period in the Korean War. But I will get that video out. I'm just waiting on the Canteen pouch and the haversack to get here. Not the Canteen pouch, the compass pouch and the haversack to get here, and I'll do that for you. So look forward to that. If you have any questions, suggestions, user experience with any of these, additional information, leave that down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer those for you. And anything like that, I try to answer a lot of questions for you guys. And maybe I'll go back and redo some of my videos and stuff here that were a little bit poor quality and such like that while I'm waiting and stuff. Since I don't have a lot of time this time of the year, and I'm not really going to have a ton of time through the end of the year just because of how busy work is. But hopefully I enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for bearing with me as far as the frequency of stuff goes. I've got lots of stuff to show. I just need to get the time to do it. And hopefully I see you all in the next video. Bye.